Yeah, welcome to Finance in Africa. This is the very first launch of data and insight reports on access to finance in Nigeria. So this is going to be like the first of many reports. But let me first of all give you guys a little bit of breakdown. Finance in Africa is a premier publishing platform, an information platform for business professionals who are looking to understand what the financial landscape is in Africa. And Intelpoint is a sister company in support of not just the mission of finance, but anything business in Africa. They provide very useful data and insights on the financial landscape. In fact, Interpoint has been existing for quite a while. They've done a bunch of reports on Nigerian financial services space. And yeah, we have someone who has manned he has been on the bike on the front seat of data and research in Nigeria and Africa by extension, and they've done a lot of amazing reports. And he's joining us here today to really discuss and dissect what the numbers behind access to finance in Nigeria really looks like. And so yeah, I have with me Yinka Awosanya, formerly an editor at TechPoint Africa. He's now the director of business intelligence at Business Front. Okay, I think I'm mentioning a lot of names, but yeah, Business Front is the parent company of Interpoint of Finance in Africa, and of course, some of you also know TechPoint Africa. So yeah, hi Yinka, it's great to have you here today.
Hi, Emmanuel. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think we'll just go right to it, right, and just have a conversation. Some of the things I just want to know some of the things you found while working on this report and some of the interesting insights you think stakeholders who are attending this webinar should take home.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but first things
Okay.
first, can you tell us a bit about Interpoint, what you do? I don't think I did justice to it before we even go ahead.
All right. So, Interpoint is the data and research arm of Business Front Limited. Um, Over the years, so for us, the goal is to provide data, insights, as well as report for everybody, irrespective of the industry or the sector they play in. Um, We've done that across various sectors. So over the years, we've released reports around financial services, insurance, our workplace, even sports. We did a report around World Cup 2 years ago. And so just basically any um, industry that is saying, yes, this is something that we can do here. So just right now, there are even a couple of other reports that are currently in the pipeline for us. So for us, it's just making data insights as well as reports available to everyone. So like you're making decisions and you need the data or reports to back whatever you are doing. So that's just the goal for us at Intelpoint.
Awesome. So, what attracted you to the financial services space in Nigeria? Why do you think a report like this is interesting, relevant?
Okay, so I might have to do a little bit of rewind. While I was a journalist and editor, financial services is one of the segments that I covered, and that kind of like instilled the interest in me to like just for financial service. And then in 2022, in partnership with MoneyPoint, so we did a report about the Nigerian financial service market space, which was massive, way bigger than the one we are launching today. And then last year, so was doing something like let's do something for 2025. I'm like, okay, let's do something that is like a follow-up to the report we released in 2023. Yes, it's going to be like starting from where we stopped in 2023. And just like, okay, yes, this is where we were then, this is how we are now. So let's just try and do something. And that was why we just, okay, let's just try and assess uh, 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 um, the current financial status of the country and let's see how it goes. So that's how we just, and then there's this finance in Africa. Like, okay, yes, let's see if we can put this on here.
Awesome, awesome. So if you were to give us like a snapshot of some of those interesting insights, I've saw a lot of interesting things. I'm going to share some of my own at some point. But what would you say are some of the like the key insights that we should take away from the report on access to finance?
Yeah, key insights. So one first things first. So there is the BVN, which is like the major thing that people will say without a BVN, you really cannot be. Yes, you can be in the financial space, but then there's a limit to the type of services you can access and all that. But BVN is like once you have a BVN, you can access literally every other financial services. So an BVN as the last check was less than 100,000, 100 million. But then the number of bank accounts in Nigeria as of last year was over 200 million. So that's like a wide gap. And then just realize that up to I think it's more than 80%, 81% of people that the respondents that we interviewed have at least two bank accounts. So you have cases where people have up to four bank accounts, to five bank accounts, and stuff like that. So that's like something that's been I've noticed over the years, especially even with the previous report and this one, 6 years. There is a part of people don't that are not in the financial system at all, and then there is those that are in the financial system, but then they have multiple bank accounts and all that. So, and then there's also the fact that yes, even those that are in the financial system, they still need some services, which they are currently not accessing at the moment. That's one of them. And then there's also the fact that yes, as much as so there are over 4,000, 4,004 thereabout bank branches in Nigeria, as well as millions of agency banking, but you still have people that want to, yes, to get to the nearest financial services institute, they still have to enter public transport or uh, uh, um, transport themselves to the nearest financial services. So they see that, and those are more than those that library financial service financial institutes within a walking distance to them.
Interesting. So it just reminded me of the time I think 2021 to 2022, I lived in Ife for like a year or two in Ife. And Ife is not really, really remote, but you still have to go a very, very long distance to at least access a bank. But I think what helped them was just walking to the junction of my street, I would see POS agents, one by the side of the road, another by the other side. And I think it's around 2021, off the COVID to now we now had the cash crisis in 2022. As I see a lot of POS agents, a lot more than I used to. And the report actually touched on agency banking. And I think that was very, very interesting. What were some interesting things you found with agency banking at the time? Because I think it has been really, really massive for the
Yeah.
average person. It's really, yeah.
So for agency banking, it's more of like a love-hate relationship. Yes, so people complain about the fact that agency banking are charging a lot of money for them to access their money. So take for instance, if you want to withdraw 5,000 naira, you're paying 100 naira. So if to withdraw 10,000 naira, you're paying, I think it's now 300 naira because of the this 15 naira that CBN is charging um on deposit or in money coming into your account that is up to 10,000 and above. So there is that. So there is the fact that yes, people hate them because of the charges and every other thing that they are doing. But then they still cannot do without them because in places like Lagos, there is chance that on your street there is one or two POS agents using an umbrella under an umbrella, serving people withdrawal, deposits, as well as even bank account opening. So there is that. So and then so you also have the fact that even people that says yes, they have banks close to them, they still might want to use agency banking guys because yes, or their agency banking it's much closer to them than the banks.
Okay, okay. That's so. But I've seen conversation recently. We're talking about the love-hate relationship, right? And
Yes,
I feel like a lot of people have forgotten what it used to be like before the agency banking guys came on board. And this is not that, oh, I'm supporting them or anything, but okay, let me be opinionated for a bit. I'm typically not opinionated as much, but 2015, I could
yeah,
picture it. A lot of queues on, especially if it's a market day in a community or in a school environment, it's a Saturday, students are going to the market. You have to be looking, trekking around campus or even going around outside campus. Then I was still in school then, 2015 year. And you barely find where to withdraw cash. And even after outside the campus, say it's a busy day or maybe it's towards the end of the month, I think right now the issue you find towards the end of the month is transfers are very, very slow. But then even to collect cash was usually an issue. So, but I think it's a net positive, but I don't know if maybe the whole cash access is that important. Like, should we not be moving people towards transfers and card payments instead of collecting cash?
okay, yes. You can. We are moving people towards cars. CBN as it says 2014 or 2012 that it started the cashless society move. And CBN has been like doing various things, but then at times it's always a case of um 2 steps forward and then take 3, 4 steps backward because you are trying to say yes, let's move people um to do less cash, and then you are penalizing them for doing transfers and stuff like that. Yes, it's there. But then, so there's also the fact that not Kenya is like the poster child for mobile money in Africa, if not the world. But then you still have that Kenya is still people you see use cash heavily in Kenya. Yes, I can say I want to do transfer, but if I am going to an open market whereby probably the person that is selling to me is above 60 or 70 thereabout, and I'm like, let me transfer to this person. So there's that challenge of saying yes, this person probably doesn't have a bank account, and if it does, it's probably using a small touchlight phone. So there is that, and there's also the fact that you make a transfer and then probably doesn't get it immediately. So it's only few financial institutions or banks in at this moment in Nigeria right now that you make transfer and then the recipients get the money immediately. There are cases whereby you do transfer and then the person probably not get it within 30 minutes or an hour. So then the other option would be to say let's use ATM and swipe a POS. So, and then there's also the fact of the cost of owning that POS for the business and the associated costs with that, because for each transfer, there's charges. So like all that are like what is like, okay, yes, should I really do this? Should really go cashless if it's not going if they are not giving room for people to say to really embrace cashless.
Hmm. It's interesting. So now you brought this perspective, and I think it's very important we also mention it here that these reports actually did like a nationally representative survey. Can you give us like a brief insight into the insights behind what gave birth to the report, as it were, so that it doesn't look like, oh, we just sat down in our parlor or our desk in the office and just started cooking numbers? Well, can you give us a look at some of the things you found? Yeah.
Okay, so yes, so when we wanted to do reports, so like I said, so we did one in 2023, which was like okay, yes, national. I think that one was we interviewed over 4,000 for that one, but then this one like okay, yes, let's just try do a very smaller one. But irrespective of that, we're still going to cover all 36 states in as and the federal government, the federal capital territory. And at the end of the day, we did about 72% of the target of what we did. And then yes, the respondents. So I mean, the questionnaire is in English, but then you have people that are administering the question, translating to them in their native language or the language that they understand, and all that. So yes, so there are a lot of other stuff. So mention that. Okay, so right now we have about 26 commercial banks in the country, 722 microfinance banks, and then more than three. Earlier, I mentioned that 200 million bank accounts. It's actually 311 bank accounts. That's 311 million bank accounts. And then the BVN as of January this year is also 64 million. So you look at it and like, yes, there are fewer people with bank accounts, but then the number of bank accounts that are active are way lot higher than that, and all that. So, and then you're looking at, okay, so when you now break down the people by bank accounts and mobile money ownership, so there are more female that don't have a bank account than male that don't have bank accounts. So
More
it's okay,
female.
more
Thank you.
more female.
Hmm.
So of
Interesting.
people that don't have a bank account, so 62% of them are female.
So that data, I think, is consistent with prevailing narrative that women are a lot more financially
Excluded than male.
than
So
men.
it shows that, and then I believe that the report, that the one that we released in 2023, also was also in that line that yes, there are more female without bank accounts than their male counterparts.
So is this consistent across all regions, or are there specific regions that
It's
is
consistent across, so there's no disparity between regions. So across all regions, it's basically the same thing that yes, there are still basically more women that don't own bank accounts than their male counterparts. Across region,
interesting?
across uh, um, even education, so it's still basically the same thing.
Even those with higher level of education,
Even
actually.
if those with high level of education, it's basically yes, there are more of them that don't own bank account. And then so for education, so when you now take education alone, so people that say yes, they don't have any formal education, there are more of those without bank account than people with. So people with postgraduate, for instance, those of them that claim to not have bank account are just 1.5%. But for no form those without formal education, as high as 28%, followed by primary education is just 19%. And then as the educational qualifications go up, so the number, or I mean the share of those without bank accounts drops.
Ah, okay, that's quite interesting. And I think I'm not surprised, but I'm actually surprised that it's actually consistent across all regions. I thought, okay, maybe some regions would be lopsided,
That
and yeah,
it's
that was an
consistent across our region.
interesting. That's actually an interesting data point to see. And I think another thing I also want to talk about is, um, yes, we've been talking about bank accounts, bank accounts. An issue I have with bank accounts is we usually using it as, so we say financial inclusion right now is at 50 something percent or 60% according to finance data. I don't know if that's accurate, but my concern is a lot of this measurement is based on how many people have opened a bank account. And I don't know if I agree that that is the scope of financial inclusion in Nigeria.
Bank
So
accounts, yes, bank accounts is just like the entry point, because there's basically anything that you want to do in the financial space that you don't need a bank account. So, but owning a bank account first, it's like the entry point um into the financial into the financial system. So yes, owning a bank account is key. But then so in Nigeria, owning a bank account now, you have to own a BVN. You need a BVN to own a bank account. And if you're just starting afresh, so that means you have to register for a BVN. And not all institutions are empowered to do that. I think right now it's only commercial banks that can register people for BVN. So that means that the likes of the new banks cannot do that. And these guys are opening a lot of accounts for a lot of people, and you see them claiming to have tens of millions of bank accounts. But at the end of the day, they are just opening a tier one account, which they open through their phone number with limitations to the kind of services that these guys can do. And then for them to upgrade, they need to get a commercial bank account.
Wow, that's quite interesting. So as much as we say fintechs are helping to drive financial inclusion, if I don't already have a commercial bank account,
You really can. So the only way that I would say fintechs are really helping to drive financial inclusion is the fact that yes, I own a bank account. Now with the likes of Bamboo Rice Vest, I can invest.
okay,
So with likes of other insurtech company, I can buy insurance. So like the other platform, other fintechs that are providing services beyond the banking. So for those ones, yes, they are, because they are just making sure that you are not just getting financial, you're not just owning a bank account. Piggy vest, you're saving your money. Investing in real estate, investing in all that. So it just makes, so for those guys, yes. But for the neobanks, what in most cases what they're just rebanking the bank, because you need to be banked first to get a BVN. You need to be in the commercial. You need to own a commercial. Yeah, to register for a BVN, you're doing it through a commercial bank. So that means you're already the banking system. But the guys that are really say yes, financial inclusion is providing services outside of banking.
now for some of the people who are not yet in the financial system, including women and less educated people, what were some of the reasons that we found to
Uh,
that's still making in big 2025?
yeah. So that would be high cost of maintenance, charges, that's charges, fees, and then for some, it's documentation. It's a case of yes, for them to register for a bank account, they need to have certain registration. So you need probably a voter's card, your NIN, and all that. So, and for them, this will takes it as yes, it's a lot of stress for them to do. And for others, the case of the proximity to where they will go and open this bank account. And for some of them, it's a case of they still don't know that from their phone, they can open even a commercial bank account. So there is that. And the interesting part is in 2023, the report that we released, a lot of people don't know that, yes, these guys allow you to open bank account from the comfort of your home. And 2025, the same thing. We did the survey between December last year to January, February this year. And it's the same thing that, yes, people don't know that they can do this thing from the comfort of their home. It's well around education, people knowing that yes, I can do this thing, I have access to this thing, and I can do it.
Okay, interesting. Let me share my screen a little bit so the audience can also see some snapshots of the report, if that's fine. I mean, we're launching today, so the report will be available
Yeah.
to you to download on the Intelpoint website. Of course, we'll also be sharing some interesting insights from the report on finance in Africa. So this is the page of interest that we're currently discussing. I'm sure my screen is displaying right
Yes.
now. So, and I think I found this page interesting because we're seeing just 26 commercial bank license
Commercial
holders,
banks.
and these guys are the
And
only guys that can give us BVN.
yes, right now.
And we have 729 microfinance bank. What is this telling us exactly? Like, this
Okay,
is quite
so now right now this 729 microfinance bank license holders. So they have more branches, because there are some of them that, like say Asha for instance, or Lapo. So they have
mm,
like a lot of branches, like hundreds if it doesn't run into thousands. So yes, they are likely to have more than what the commercial banks is currently having. So that's that. But then now imagine empowering those guys to say yes, they can register people for BVA. So that means you're likely to get more people into the financial fold and just saying yes, commercial banks.
So, but I mean, some of the banks, some of these new banks already partner with commercial banks for settlement, loan underwriting, and all that. Why is there? I'm actually
Yeah.
curious. Of course, we'll be having follow-up webinars to talk with some key players in the space to get more insights. But I'm actually curious why such a partnership does not exist. Why can't they just plug into the
Into
banking
that to say
infrastructure?
yes. Yeah, it's just so for that, that's more regulatory because BVN it's like supposed to be the anchor, basically the NIN for banking. Supposed to
Yes,
be
yes.
the identifier exactly. So and that's more the other partners that you are talking about is basically say bank A partner with new tech B. But for BVN, it's just saying you have to what's it called? It's because it's a regulatory something. So the partnership has to happen. It has to happen on the from the regulators angle. The regulator will be the one to drive it. The regulator say, yes, you guys can register for it. So it's not something that a GT bank or an assistant bank can say, yes, let me partner with a new bank, for instance, to say, let me start driving this thing.
Hmm, that's interesting. We have 1.96 million agency banking. I think that explains how much like they've spread all over. Would you say they are more
Yes.
focused in the urban areas or rural areas?
Yes, they are more focused in the urban than rural area,
Hmm.
which is
I think
and same with commercial banks. So for the commercial banks, about 20 up to 30% of them are actually in Lagos
hmm,
State. So and that's a state that like it's an urban state. I mean, almost part of the state is not rural. So like you should expect that this should be focused in the border. No. And the same applies to the agency banking guys. They are more concentrated in urban area.
okay. Let's go to let's not drag that into much because many questions in my head. But mm, so I find this so at least 80% of people we talked to had at least two
Yes.
bank
So
accounts.
yes.
Do they say why they maintain two? I mean, I
Well,
understand for calls you have in case one SIM goes off, you use the other SIM.
also all right. So it's right now. At times, to know the number of accounts that I have, I have to like Google the number of commercial banks in Nigeria and then be seeing the ones that I probably don't have a bank account with. Like, yes, this one I have bank account, this one I have bank account, this one I have bank. Then new bank again, it's almost the same thing. So new banks, for instance, have about like three or four. Then for commercials, I mean for commercial banks, that's way more than that. Probably up to six or seven.
Interesting. This is cool. This is cool. So we won't be going over all the numbers one by one, just scrolling through and seeing some interesting. Now, this chart also was another part that I found interesting. Like it's showing growth between 2022 and
20 and
2024.
23. Yeah.
So, but 2022, 27% of the people said they
They
don't have
have
any
a
bank.
close back to them. And it drops to 9.1%.
Now that's quite interesting. So is it that more people are so in my thinking was with the rise of agency banking, banks are no longer opening more facilities. So is it that they've actually been opening more facilities since then?
Yes. So I think for the agency banking, it's more around financial education, not knowing what these guys um can do. So because most people don't know that you can walk up to these guys and open an account in
Hmm.
minutes. People still think you have to go to the bank to open an account. People don't know that yes, you can walk up to someone under an umbrella and they open an account for you. And some even Some even go as high as you open an account and they give you a debit card. But not just that, not the kind of debit cards that your name is on it. But you have a debit card that is tied to your account. So there's the fact that people don't know that yes, you can do that.
Hmm.
And of
Interesting. So
course,
you can,
there's still the trust concern.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, it just feels weird to just go to meet someone under an umbrella and say you have an
I
account.
want to open a bank account rather than say let me walk into a bank to
Yeah,
do and do the same thing.
I mean, you enter that door, let that music play for your ears
Exactly.
more.
Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da,
Thank
ta-da.
you.
And then like, yes, I'm entering a bank. No.
Interesting. So I think that was an interesting point. So also another interesting point. I think I actually expected PSBs to kick off. So the mobile money guys, but the more they stay around, it's more it's looking like, oh yeah, they were actually late to the party. Is that looking
They
like the
no
case?
they came late to the party. They came pretty late to the party. And for a fact that they are supposed to maintain a certain percentage of their presence in rural areas. And then there's also a limit to the kind of services that they can offer. So all those kind of like put a strain on them. So at least all the three, I believe Airtel, MTN, as well as Nine Mobile, all have a PSB. And it's supposed to be like they using their service stations, their service point that they already have to also service their PSB. But it doesn't seem as if that's happened. And that's because, yes, meet someone that's probably the chance of you running into someone on the street without a bank account or at least a tier one account, the ones that don't need BGN, is very low. And that's in the city. And that's where most of these guys are. That's where most of their service points are. The nearest service point, okay, in my hometown now, the nearest service point to me to say yes, I want to go to an Airtel shop or an MTN shop, I'll enter I'll enter public transport and spend almost 1K go come. So that means if they're going to use this place as also as service point for their PSB, it also creates the same bottleneck of me having to travel just to get just to access financial services.
And yeah, from what I'm seeing here, 80% of people need transportation to get to the closest financial institution.
Financial institution.
Interesting. That's quite interesting. So I was expecting at least um, a larger percentage, especially in urban areas, a larger percentage. I was expecting it to have, like, expecting people to have more banks, at least walkable distance to where they are. But I'm actually surprised this is a concern.
So for me, it should not be in having it should be in having their service points like the POS guys closer to them because they are less capital what's that word? Don't need large capital for those guys. So those guys are just like with an umbrella, a table and a chair, and you're paying for the POS and you are good, you are set to okay to start doing business. So be having more of these guys and then empowering beyond empowering them, you're also educating people on the kind of services that they can access from these guys. So not just a case of I just want to do transfer, I just want to make a withdrawal. No, I also do a lot of other things.
Interesting. I think we've gone over this a bit, bank and mobile issue. Yeah, now
Yeah, you
the
see,
regional
like there
breakdown.
is no big margin between them that much. Even though the South South has the largest share of its people, without a bank account. But then it's still highest is 5.7% and the lowest is 1.2%, which is not central.
This is actually a surprising stat. So
Yeah.
is this bank account in general or just
So bank
mobile
account and
money bank
mobile
account?
money.
And South have the highest
Yes, yes.
of
That
people
is
without
highest share of people without bank or
bank or
mobile money
mobile money
accounts.
account. Okay, this is actually very interesting data that I think we need to break down a bit more. I guess there might be interesting nuances to this regarding population and share of population that own a bank account, or is there something else that's going on that we're not seeing? And because this is breaking a lot of expectations I'm having regarding
Yeah, yeah. It's expressing that
regional.
probably the North probably have a much larger people without bank accounts than those in the South.
Yeah. So was there any interesting trend that you think contributed to this, or this is there an interesting trend in the data itself?
So it's really not a surprise that yes, what we're expecting isn't the what we're seeing. Because yes, it's sworn enough to say yes, this is what you think it might be, but then you enter street and you discover that it's completely different from what you are thinking that it's going to be. So
Okay. So I feel like if I post this data now, it's going to cause a lot of dragging. But yeah, it's be an interesting
well,
conversation to have.
that's what it's saying.
That's interesting. Now, education and account ownership. I think we talked about that a bit. You have this is also interesting. There's the differences between different age groups is also not as negligible as we
Yeah,
think.
it's not as for those that are above, they are 56 and above. Yes,
Yeah,
that's understandable because as I said when I was saying that you go to someone that you want to buy something from them and you're asking them for bank account. I say I don't get bank accounts. I don't have bank account. So for those guys, it's really not much of a priority for them. But for those that are younger, definitely. You see, those between 26 and 35 has the lowest share of people that don't have bank accounts.
yeah, pretty straightforward.
Like exactly. And those between 18 to 25, in most cases, those guys are just entering the workforce or just trying to finish school and all that. So understanding for those ones. And then you see as you go older, that's like a decline in the number of in the share of people with bank accounts.
That's interesting. Now, there's a particular data point I want us to touch on, have a money. Now, where people get loans.
Yes. So
When I was reviewing this, please, you can please explain.
I shared the phone with a few people. So I usually give people free access. So I shared the phone with a few people. And those were like, what I find interesting is the fact that people there are more people taking loans from commercial banks than other loan apps. And the other loan are your regular fintech guys. And like, yes, it's you can so proud to say 3, 5 years ago the chance of you saying you want to get a loan from your bank, you think that like it's people with maybe HNIs that would like just get a loan from your bank. But now, from your mobile phone, from your app, you can request for a loan from a bank and they get it. And then for a fact that the interest rate is much lower compared to what the fintech guys and any other apps are giving. So that makes it look attractive for people to say yes. Um, if banks are giving me less than 4K per month, I mean 4% per month, and these guys are doing some are doing as high as 30-35% per month. So it's just a given that I just go with commercial bank and then just look at his friends and family. And then so sorry so like if you need money, the first person you are like the first set of people that you're going to say is reach out to his your friends and your family like
Understandable.
Alpha, can I see 20K from you there till next week? That's the first person. one is cheaper because you are not paying interest on it.
Yeah.
Like you're literally not paying it. The only thing you are paying is just the transfer charges. And then there's cooperative society, which also has a very low interest rate. So for me, the only thing I see is that there's a correlation between this and the interest rates according to them. So for friends and family, no interest. Cooperative association, also a very low interest. And then you have the commercial banks which charge a little bit of interest, single digit, especially for short-term loans. Getting a loan and you're paying back in a month or thereabout. Even some of their loans that are up to like 6 to a year is still a single digit. And then you have the other loan apps that are charging you as high as 20, 30, 35% per month. So, and then you have the microfinance bank.
Hmm. So there's a clear, from what I'm saying, it seems there's a clear correlation between
Yeah, the
interest
interest rates.
rates and the likelihood to use a particular platform.
And then, so the other correlation will be access. So
Easy access.
easy access. So you can just call up your friend or your brother and say, "Hey, um, let me have this, and in 1 or 2 weeks when salary drops, I'll pay you back." Cooperative society. So you belong to a cooperative society that gives you the access to say, I can just walk up to the ESCO and say, I want to collect this thing. There's a criteria. So if I meet the criteria, I get the loan. Commercial banks, the same thing. So if you are banking with it, yeah, I think some banks do it that if you bank with them for 2 months, you qualify to get a loan.
Hmm.
So other loan apps, of course, it's just the only thing you're doing is just go to the Play Store or Apple Store and download it and register for your and all that. So, and then of course,
So
microfinance bank. In most cases, you have to walk into the microfinance bank to get that.
get a loan. So
So
that makes
access,
sense.
interest
Access.
rates.
So, but what about those? I thought some of these MFBs, they actually,
Mm,
some of all these guys that carry paper and buy up and down, they're going from shop to shop. Is that,
yeah.
don't they offer loan through those guys, or the people have to still go to
So
the bank?
they offer loans to those guys, but those ones, it's not as straightforward as the other guys.
Hmm.
It is not as straightforward as these other guys. So for them
So,
is you have to be. So what if they did not approach me? So the only other option is I either go through with someone that is already doing business with them or walk into a microfinance bank myself, which is
yeah,
not the case with every other one. For me, every other one you can do it from the comfort of your home.
yeah, that actually makes sense. Makes sense. So, friends, family, cooperative. I think this is an interesting data point. Once again, if you have any questions you'd like to have Yinka about the nuances behind this data, because that's why we have Yinka here, you can put your questions in the comment section and we'll attend to them. But if you have any questions whatsoever, the report, I think the report is live right now, right, on
Yes, it's
Intelpoint.
live. It was posted in the webinar chat. I believe everyone should be able to see it.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So yeah, that's quite interesting. And I think we can go straight to outlook for 2025, the expectations for 2025. Um, so the most likely financial services people are most likely to
Nice, yes.
use saving
Savings.
services, and so people just want to make money. That's what it's looking like. Nobody
Those
wants
are
to
so.
insure.
You have to survive first before you think of insurance.
I mean, we had a friend of mine had an emergency a few weeks back, and insurance was like, I just thought about like if there was no insurance, that would have been a lot of money that went down the drain. So the interesting thing I found here, okay, yes, insurance exists. They are making a lot of profit for some great reason because I was looking at the financials of some insurance companies and like, wow, now we see insurance is at 4% or 5% penetration. And this is how much these insurance companies are making. So it's just something to be said. Well, I know you did a bunch of research on insurance even before you moved to that point. So it's just something to be said about insurance that Or is blood of Jesus sufficient for everybody?
Yes, so that's just so we released an insurance report in that was last year. Yes, it was last year. We issued an report in early last year. And it was a case of yes, for most people, we're Africans. So if you ask people to come buy insurance, so the first thing what their mind is telling us is that you are wishing them bad.
Hmm.
I'm trying to say, okay, so you say bad things will happen to me, that's why I should come and buy insurance. But then it's not, they're not saying from the perspective of them protecting themselves against if anything happens. That's one. Then there's also the trust part. So I like you have trust that if I buy insurance and something happens, am I likely to get my money back? I had a personal experience with, but then that's not on trust. That's more on the process. That's more on process. But then, and it's not on the financial insurance company, but on the government now. But it's not something that the insurance company can fix, except they push for it. The only way they can fix it is it's not something that they can fix themselves. They have to push for it for that thing to happen. And now, based on my experience, I still buy insurance, but based on my experience, there are certain insurance that if you market it to me, I'm likely not to buy. Um,
Sorry about you live in so funny. All right. Eesh.
yeah, so
Okay. Yeah.
you get my points, but then that's me personally as someone that yes, I went to school more. But then, so now talk about maybe general one or all that. So yes, so there's parts of insurance and there's a trust, and then there's also the saying when you go to sell insurance to people. So I spoke with insurance or sales agent, and they're like, savings products. It's easier to sell saving products to people than selling insurance products to them. Even though the insurance products help them, if something happens, they're able to bounce back on their feet on time. But then they still don't see it that way. They see more like, okay, yes, you're wishing that something bad will happen to them.
Okay, so maybe this question is not for you. Maybe I will again. Like I said, for those of us listening, we're going to be having like a series of webinars to dissect different parts of the report. And this is one thing I also like to talk about insurance. So combine data from this and the previous insurance report to have like a really, really interesting discussion. But because it's a scenario where with insurance, the question is okay, what if something happens? Then the reverse question is, what if something doesn't happen?
Yes. So what if something doesn't
What
happen?
happens to my
So
money?
yeah, no, what happens to your money? So there are insurance companies that what they do is if you did not make claim in that year, so what they do is for everybody that doesn't make claim, so for those that make claim, they remove what their own claim, settle them. And for those that did not make claim, so they prorate it and give you back some of your money.
Hmm. Please, which companies are doing that? Let me know so that.
No, no. So there are few that are doing it in Nigeria at the moment.
Okay,
There are
okay.
few that are doing. In fact, even some there is this what's it called? This Islamic insurance companies that also do the same thing. Others Takafo. So they also do the same thing that if at the end of the month, at the end of the year, throughout that year, you did not make any claim, so they prorate it, calculate it, and give you back something. But if you make claim, definitely you are not getting anything.
Hmm. That's interesting. Now, mortgage, I don't even want to open that
I
can
know.
of
So
worms.
mortgage is basically a big man problem.
Yeah, that's a whole different ballgame. But it's interesting to know that okay, mortgage right now it's
Yeah,
even for
people
people
are
in financial
still
services. I'm I'm actually thinking of it. I'm like, okay, do I even really know anything like the entire process of getting a house with I mean a mortgage banking service. I think that's going to be a story for another day. Yeah,
yeah. So mortgage in Nigeria is not as yes. There has been a lot of education and information around it. I think last year the federal government did a couple of billions of naira commitments to mortgage in Nigeria and all that. But then there's also the fact that people see it as yes, you have to have arrived before you can say, let me access mortgage. But then there's there's one payment that if you are employed, you're supposed to be paying, I think around 5% or thereabout towards your mortgage, which you can access at the end of later and all that. So
Oh, okay. Is that been automatically deducted from
no,
salary
no, no, no,
credit?
no, no, no. I believe that the company has to register for that scheme.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's about
That's
5%. Yes, it's about 5% of your monthly income goes there, and then after a while you can use it. So they not use it to finance your down payment, and then you're then paying the other ones. And because it's a pool, so it's not just going to be on you alone.
that's really really interesting. Uh, Probability of using new product. Again, insurance is still lower. It's savings, investments. Like I like that. Okay, let's move on.
So
uh,
people are looking at the fact that yes, so in the last 2 years thereabout, so the naira to the dollar has the value has gone down extremely low, and then you're looking at so the best way keep, that people keep pushing for how to say to mitigate against this is to save, to invest. So which makes it perfect that okay, the next thing I want to do in this new year is to try and save.
oh, that makes sense. Now this is another interesting outlook. It feeds off a conversation I started on LinkedIn that I ran away from because people were the comments were too much. I couldn't keep track. But it was on where people trust to keep their money. And unsurprisingly, it's still commercial banks that still. Let's.
Yes.
Did any
It,
of them give any reason? Like any of the people you talked to?
no, so we did not ask for it. We only asked where they would keep majority of their money in the new year. And for me, I believe that this is a given. So if you can just go out now and ask few people that owns both new banks, account with new banks and commercial banks, and ask them why they will not keep. For most people, they just use their new banks for their day-to-day transactions. I just put money there so that if I want to spend, I just spend. But you see, let me save my money there. Yes, new banks have savings features. Even some you have piggy vest like features where you can lock money for certain period of time, like fixed. But then there's also the fact that there's people don't trust them to say, let me put my money here and just go to sleep. Yes, we can say trust is an illusion. But then for these guys, if anything happens, if it's a GT
It's not an
bank,
illusion.
he said, no, 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 no. Yeah, people will say it's an illusion. But then, so if my money is in GT bank and anything happen, I know there's a GT bank down my street. If as if I know there's an access bank close to me that I can walk to and go and drag their branch manager. But the guys of OPay, Money Point, I mean, yeah, OPay, Money Point, and others, you have to contend with speaking with their customer support on the phone, and it's when they attend to you and when they solve your problem. So there is that. So I now say you work 30 days a week, you collect salary. Yeah, let me save it there. And then the next day something has happened. So it's just that trust. But then for commercial banks, of course, you're seeing their branches, they are not going to run away with their branches. They change
Yeah,
their managers, they change their staffs, but then the branch is still the same. I'm having a conversation with the branch. So
yeah. So it's a trust is like the bank branch. That's the shape of trust. Right now, you have to have a physical point of presence that uh so
but then
but
so these new banks are actually moving towards that. So you have I believe OP were doing something whereby they have a place where if you have any problem, you can go there and they have it. But then it's still not as spread as a commercial bank.
Yeah, and it's not as spread, and I don't think they have as much people to attend to you when you go there. But
So
and also with those the likes of OP, Money Point, Bank I think something I also should also raise, but it's something I noticed. Um, a lot of people open shops or kiosks in the name of these companies that are not actually affiliated companies. So you just go there. So there are some people who are actually affiliated, but there are some who are not. So I think it's something that we should all be careful for. And I think that's
because
one of the
if
big,
they do business in the name of OP, at the end of it, it's OP that will be held responsible, and that
yeah.
affect the trust that people have in them. Well, I know that, and that's yes, um, Zenith Bank, yeah, Zenith Bank uses shops at times, but then I don't think they use it to solve problem. Only they use those ones for point of your registering some of these people. To register, you want to register an account and all that. So, but not to say you want to solve people's problem. I believe Zenith Bank, I know, yes, I know Zenith Bank does that, TGB as well. They're using people's shops as well there. But then it's to for account creation, deposit and withdrawal, not to say let me save you in terms of trying to get solve your problem. So yes, definitely. And I believe those key into the reason why the trust issue thing.
Okay. Now this is trust. So
Yeah.
the level of trust people have in financial institutions, 43% high, 48% moderate, 7% low. So I think we should be able to stop here for now. Um, if again, thank you so much, Inka, for the insights you've been able to give us on Nigeria's financial services space. This is really, really amazing report. And for those who are curious, we interviewed 3,200 people across 36 states and the FCT. Uh, and we got a lot of interesting things. We surveyed people, and I think I mentioned the surveys were sent out in English, but people actually administered these surveys, and they were translated in the local languages of these people when asking these questions to try and find out how they engage financial services, so that nothing is lost in process of translation and everything. We actually went deep, went into the grassroots to get these numbers out. And please, you can, I think we just shared it on the chat right now, the presence front, get the link to the report. You can download it. It's free. It's not paid. Just put your email and download the report. And of course, if you have any questions, if you have any correlation or anything you'd like to see with the data, you can also contact Intelpoint. Uh, you can also contact me. I'll charge a fee, finder's fee for, for that. But yeah, you can also contact Inka. But Inka has been doing really, really amazing work. Inka and his team at Interpoint. And we're going to be partnering with them a lot for a lot of data, a lot of research on Nigeria's financial services space. So, Inka, do you have any thoughts, final thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, I believe that I've covered most of the things in the report in this. Well, we've done about yeah in this time. So yes, good to go for now.
Okay.
Let's just
Yes.
get
So,
the report at intelpoint.co.
yes, Interpoint.co. The links are there. You can also explore the other reports. Now, some people might be having a question, and I have the answer, but I want you to address it. Some people might be having a question that, oh, there are 200 million people in Nigeria. Can we get something substantial from 3,000 people? Meanwhile,
Yes.
these 3,000 people you are seeing is even
Yeah.
way more than the average number of respondents for typical report you see in financial services. Trust me, most people don't go beyond 1,000. So
So
yeah, just help us address this
two
part.
things. Yes. The question we usually ask me that is the sample size too much or too low, or is it enough? That's it. I say yes and no. Statistically, statistically, it's way higher than. So if you put it in, if you calculate your margin of error, and there's this other one that you factor into it and all that, you have less than 8,000 actually that you're supposed to interview. It should give you less than 8,000. But then to say now, let's go all out and try and get as much as possible. Yes, so I've seen a few reports that did up to 25,000, and I've seen some that did as high as even 100,000. Yes, but then it's all so there is the point where so in 2023 when we released the feedback report, so we released ours, we interviewed over 4,000 people, and then so I saw another report that did, I think they did close to 75,000 people, and the report is saying exactly the same thing. So there's one thing in research that you get to a point whereby uh, any additional input doesn't affect
Also,
your result. So whether you interview 1,000 or you interview 100,000, it gets to a point whereby if you add more to it, your results will not change. So there is that. Is the respondents enough? Yes, it's statistically it's even more than what you're supposed to, the number of people. Because if you ask statistics to it, people are doing probably around, I believe, 800 and something. I believe it's less than 100 thereabout. But then to see, let's interview more people to get a much broader perspective. With 30,000, that's right. So over the years, we've released reports with respondents ranging by the number of respondents. So this one, we worked with one report recently that we over 7,000. There is another report that we are working with that we did about 4,000. There's one we did 2,000. So it varies. It's just a case of how much we can get on this. I mean, the number of people that we can get on it. And at the end of the day, it's yes, the number of people you interview might differ in the outcome you are getting, but in most cases, they don't really matter. Like I said, we did a report and we did for over 4,000 people. Another company did another report about 75,000 thereabout, and they are basically saying the same thing. So what then the so if you get my point, yes, it's just what it is.
okay, so I think what's the interesting thing I found that okay, as long as you get to a certain number, what now matters is your representation for
Yes,
key.
representation. So it's not a case of I'm doing it in Lagos alone. I'm doing it all 36 states of the country and FCT. And you're not doing it in cities alone. So you're doing it in cities as well as rural area. So you're trying to cover as much people as possible.
Okay, okay. So I just wanted to get that cleared up before we round things up. And yeah, I think the time has gone, so we're not able to take any questions right now. But thank you so much, Inka. Like I said, you can always reach out to him. He's very, very, very active on LinkedIn. You can also find him on Twitter, but you might not recognize him. But thank you so much, Inka, for doing this with us. And we hope this is
Thanks
the
for having me.
yeah, we're hoping this is going to be the first of many reports. This is
Yes.
probably the smallest launch we're ever going to do. So I'm expecting a ripple effect from the launch of these reports that would make a lot of waves, as it were. So yeah, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and yeah, have a lovely day. And this is once again, my name is Emmanuel Paul, and I work with Finance in Africa. Finance in Africa is just all about all things finance, how it works, who it works for, and how you can plug into the financial services sector in Africa.